Hello, everybody. Welcome in today. Clearing some sacred space for us today to talk about conflict again. Keeps coming back into awareness. And for good reason, I think, because we struggle so much with conflict on a daily basis. So we've sort of talked into conflict previously. But today I want to talk about conflict in the context of not living in a place of alignment. So again, this is something that we all struggle with. Trying to live in a state of aligned authenticity is very difficult. And in order to rise out of that state of being in conflict, we really have to get to know ourselves on a deeply intimate level. So that means we've got to be authentic to ourselves. We have to honor our needs and our desires. And by desires, I really am referring to the dreams, the inspirational things that live within ourselves. We have to honor our boundaries. We have to acknowledge our feelings. And of course, as I was saying, we've got to live in a place of alignment rather than in a state of compromise. And that if we must live in a state of compromise until we can get to that authentic place, how do we do that in a way that aligns with ourselves? We also, in order to be authentic to ourselves, we have to speak our truth in a gentle and loving way, even if it may not even if it may not be what others want to hear. So all of those things are how we need to live in an authentic manner to the self in order to bring conflict to an end. And the conflict, of course, is inside all of us. And just like being present, it's a thing we have to continually see and be open to seeing in order to move beyond it and transcend that conflict, transmute that conflict. And the scarab beetle that I chose today, this is a beautiful piece that my son got me when he went to Egypt. And I love it so much. Scarab is all about connection and bridging that connection, our inner and our outer worlds, bringing those two aspects into alignment, into unity. And it's a teaching basically that shows us that God, the One, resides within us. And this knowledge that God resides within us is able to empower us to unlock our potential. And that leads us to rebirth and transformation. So this kind of goes into the concept of the mirroring effect of our world that I've talked a little bit about before. And this is a really difficult concept for people who are awakening to wrap their heads around. This can be a difficult thing for people to realize even when they have a lot of spiritual knowledge and have done a lot of spiritual work, because our world is sort of the illusion that we get caught up in that can cause us to forget who we are, which is the God source, the God within us. That spark lives within each and every one of us. And we forget that easily because we get so caught up in all of the things that are happening in our world around us. So when you get into the concept of the mirroring of our outer world and how that shows us what is happening on our inner landscape inside of us. So the conflict that lives within us, depending on the degree of conflict that is energetically living within you, is going to be a direct reflection of the outer world and the chaos in your outer world. So, as I said before, I had at one point in time a lot of conflict going on in my outer world. And I didn't understand at that point in time the concept of how our world mirrors to us what's going on inside of ourselves. I just thought all these random things were just happening to me over and over and over again. When you come to understand and start seeing that the things in our outer world are showing us what's going on inside of us, you begin to have a whole new relationship with life and with yourself, because it forces you to be honest with yourself in a way that you perhaps have never been. And that is where the intimacy of knowing yourself comes in, being authentic to the self. Because when you truly see the outer world happenings, or perhaps this is a message for something I need to take a deeper look at. All of the circumstances, all of the things, all of the occurrences are all happening to help you see whatever conflict is residing within you. And another great part about seeing that this is how our world works is because then you can stop taking things personally. Kind of like I said before, I really felt like all of these things were just happening to me. Like, why is all this stuff just always happening to me? I didn't understand. And it made me feel like a victim to my circumstances in my life. Something I couldn't get out of. Something I had no control over. But I do. And when you start realizing that all of those things are trying to show you something, slowly and surely that leads you back into a state of empowerment. Because when you see each circumstance, each happening, each thing that's going on in your life as a lesson, it is much easier for you to remedy the situation within yourself and see the change. You eventually will see the change begin to happen. And this is probably one of my favorite aspects of spiritual deepening, because this aspect was one of the hardest for me to grasp when I first started awakening. And I was really in a state of really fighting it for a while, actually, because I was at first, no way, this cannot be, this is not real. That cannot be how things are. So I fought that idea for quite some time. And then I started just testing little things. And when I began testing those little things, I began seeing big results. And that is really, I would have to say, the beginning of my spiritual transformation that really changed things for me by leaps and bounds, was really seeing that, oh my gosh, yes, these things are happening to show me things about myself. Things that things that I have been ignoring, things that I have been pushing down, things that I have been living in a state of denial about. Okay, so all of these aspects of the self that we sort of run from. And we can run from these things, kind of pretend we don't see these things. Humans, we are so good. We are so freaking good at living in denial, let me tell you. Oh my gosh. So it cracks me up. It really does, because when I think of my own journey, oh, all I can do is laugh about it now, because I've come such a long way. And I once lived in this state of feeling so powerless and so out of control, really, even though I tried to control everything. And then when you have the realization that when you just start controlling your inner self, your inner conflict, when you start seeing that and you start facing it and loving it and just accepting and being truthfully, authentically, honoring yourself, all of these things. So these are all ways that we need to meet ourselves. And really, I guess that's what it comes down to, is that meeting of the self, knowing of the self, honoring the self, loving the self, and having compassion for the self. And those are all of the ways that you bring alignment and unity to what is currently conflict within you. So, with that being said, kind of circles back around to what I was saying earlier. You know, there's so many ways that we can be authentic to the self, and that's truly, truly where it all begins, is that knowing of the self, being authentic to the self, living in your truth, even when it's scary, Because believe me, I know it's scary. There's a lot of scary things that we need to do to face our truth. But the more you step into that little by little, the less scary it becomes. And then you realize that fear is also an illusion. Because at all times, you're connected into Source. You are connected into God. God is within you. So, knowing all of the things within you, seeing all of these things within you, remembering daily that everything that's happening is happening to show you something within yourself that you're not seeing. So if you have a circumstance in your life that keeps happening, it may happen with, it may be a sort of similar circumstance, but it may happen over and over again with the same people, with different people. So that's a really big indicator that there is something very valuable in those circumstances for you to learn. So look at those things. Don't just pass them off as coincidental, because they're not. So really, this is all about starting to see with your heart, starting to see your life through the inner landscape of your heart, because that is your compass. If you honestly sit with yourself and ask yourself, is there something here for me to learn from this particular situation that's happening in my life right now? If you sit with yourself and ask yourself those questions, things will come in. Information, insight, wisdom, it will come in. It will guide you. It will tell you the truth. It will help you. You may not see it right away, but it will lead you to the truth within you. So with that today, I will leave it there. I am so grateful for those of you who are taking the time to listen. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for sharing. I am so grateful for you taking the time to be here and for you stepping into your truth, because it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of strength. So thank you for being you and for being here with me and sharing our space. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And until next time.